Joining us now, he is the head coach of the Florida Gators, fresh off a Women's College World Series appearance, fresh off being winning a gold and World Championships at the World Games with the U.S. National team as an assistant. It was a good 2022 for him, and it's now entering his 17th season at Florida, 20th overall as a head coach in Division I softball. I can't believe it's been that long. It seems like it's gone by. Head coach Tim Walton joining us. I just read that 20th season overall for you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Eric. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been you just like myself. We've seen the game really grow, and it's been fun to look back on some of the special memories and moments. You talked about this summer with the USA team, just a phenomenal experience. My first time with the U.S. National team, obviously coaching the junior national teams before that, but great experience, great opportunity, and just it's been fun. I think this is my 25th year coming up as a coach in softball, and it's been a great ride.
I want to start with the U.S. national team. As you mentioned, the first time as in the national level, you've been on the junior national level. You reunited with Heather Tarr, who's the head coach of the U.S. national team, Sydney Ball Malone, and Tony Baldwin. You all were together in the 2019 junior national team when you won the World Championships. What was it like to be reunited with them and being part of the national team with players like Monica Abbott and company and winning that in Birmingham?
Yeah, it was special. We had for that collection of teams, so the players, the coaching staff, it's a training opportunity. So you put together what Heather's done with the national team's a little different than in previous years, where she's taken a pool of athletes, and you have some that are in Japan, and some that are going to play Athletes Unlimited, and some that are going to play different professionals, some that play on other have other obligations, other jobs, other things going on. And so she's basically just asked almost kind of like a doodle poll of who's available at these dates, and then we're going to try to put together the best coaching staff, the best player group, best team to win a championship, given opportunities of availability. And I think it's a brilliant way to do it. It allows everybody to keep their jobs. It allows everybody to keep their families and do what they want to do, but then also be a part of something pretty special with USA softball. And but in Birmingham, it was fun. The World Games, I'd never been a part of something like that. It was the amount of homeland security and the amount of just security in general was high level stuff. And but coaching players like Monica Abbott and Hannah Flippin and Deja and Ali Carter had a phenomenal time for us in the circle. Hayden McClenny was the most outstanding player, and got a chance to be with Michelle Moultrie again, Charlotte Eccles, and Amanda Lorenz. Obviously, Amanda coached me for a couple, and then get a chance to coach her again. It was great. I learn a lot every time I do it. I learn a lot. I learn a lot about myself. I learn a lot about the game, and then I have a tremendous amount of respect for other countries, but Japan in particular. They play softball the right way. They train the right way. They compete the right way, and beating them on our home soil was awesome. The crowd was awesome. But I tell you what, from a personal development experience, professional development experience, it's big time, and I really enjoy my time doing it.
I've spoken to all four of you about it. You've all have shared that same sentiment that you really enjoy each other's company. You're all competitive. I've heard some legendary stories of the fungal golf battles you've had over the years. But you two pick each other's brains and be better coaches there. Just talk about that bond that you all have there when you get together and represent the country.
Yeah, it's funny, when you take, we've all been to the College World Series as an assistant coach, a head coach, player, whatever you put down on there. And there's no ego. There's zero ego. Heather leans on me. I lean on Heather. Heather leans on Cindy. Cindy leans on me. I lean on Cindy. Tony. Heather leans on Tony. Like, we all have our niche. We all have our Heather coached Cindy in college, and then Cindy coached with Heather, so they have a different relationship than Tony and I do with the two of them. But there's a lot of respect. I think that we all have I guess you can say a quote unquote expertise, and we stay in our lane. Like, there's no ego involved. If Heather says, "Hey, go out there and coach first base," I'll go coach first base. She said, "Coach third, coach third." She wants to run a hit and run, and I don't. We run a hit and run. Like, it's pretty simple. It's a lot of fun, and she leans on me for things, and then vice versa. I lean on her, and then again, we've had a really good experience, and we send text messages and some images of past being on being on a motorized scooter and, in Paris, and you're looking up at the Eiffel Tower. We all have that share. We share that bond. And, being in Dublin, Ireland for the first ever fast pitch softball game in that country. We were there, all four of us. And to go back to that again this next upcoming summer, it's going to be a cool experience.
That's tremendous, and it's been a great part of the game and the growth of the sport. And it's nice for you. It had to be nice for you for a change to be on the same team with Monica Abbott and Haley McClain instead of going against them. That has to be a nice plus too.
You know what's funny? I think they both said that to me. So it was really cool. But Monica, I mean, gosh, what a true, just an amazing professional. She just gets after it, and her work ethic is tremendous. Learned a lot watching Monica train and compete, and talked to her a ton in the dugout. And nobody talks to Monica when she's pitching. You just let her be. She's got to stay laser focused. But really proud of what she's done, and just carried that gauntlet and transitioned that to the next generations of softball players in a lot of different countries all over the world. But yeah, it was fun, great experience. And then Haley, man, gosh, she was tremendous, and she to her own admission, she wasn't in game shape, from a competitor standpoint, because she hadn't really competed since the Olympics. But as the summer went on, as the tournament stuff went on, there she is again, the top of the lineup, getting on base, leading off the game with a triple, doing some special things, scoring some runs. Her defense is tremendous. But what most people don't know about her leadership, just the way she handles the success and failures of the game. She's a really good mentor and a really good leader to anybody and everybody that's on the same field with her.
The great ones always seem to know what to turn it on and figure it out at the big stage, and she's definitely one of those. And of course, you had just come off making the trip to the World Series, and that's kind of what I want to start with to talk about this year's team, because I feel like the story begins last year with that historic run to the World Series from the standpoint of you get through on the road, going to Blacksburg, your back's against the wall, you're down a game, and you play incredible softball, beat a great team like Virginia Tech, who had a tremendous talented team. When you reflect on last year, I know you had a lot of pride. I remember talking in Oklahoma City about the fact you did it on the road for the first time. What do you think about when you think about that, that weekend, getting to OKC and what you accomplished last year?
Well, first of all, when you're on the road for super regionals, you earned it. When you're at home for super regionals, you earned it. And what I mean by that, that's a whole body of work. To be the number 3 seed in the country, you've earned that. And that means you've beaten a lot of really good teams to get there. And so for us, we were the 13 seed, I think. I think 14, 13, I don't remember the number. But long story short, we earned that because we had so many losses, and we had a couple bad losses, and we had, but the cool thing is to go on the road. We've never done that before in this program's history. So that was a first accomplishment. And so to me, the things that I really, had conversations with our team about is it's listen, our goal is to get to the College World Series. College World Series 2021, we won the SEC in the last at bat of the season. We win the SEC, which was awesome. But with that being said, we didn't get to the College World Series, and any and everybody around us, our own program included, it felt like a very disappointing season. Last year, I think we tied for 4th in the SEC. We had a good run in the SEC, especially late. Tournament, we played pretty well. At regionals, we played great. And super regionals, we had a bad first game on the road, which is to be expected a little bit. And then against, in my opinion, a better team, especially in the game one. I mean, the players that they ran on the field and their aggressiveness and their confidence, we just figured out a way to regain that momentum and confidence. And we got better as the tournament went on. Every inning, we got better and better and better and better. By the time we got into game 2, into game 3, we were confident, we were comfortable. Our young players were now veteran players on that field. And it really, really, really really played to our advantage. But the nobody understands, this thing I'm wearing on my chest, being a Florida Gator, and really the amount of pressure that comes with that for our young people, especially when they haven't dealt with it before. Oh yeah, I'm a Gator. I want to go to the College World Series, and then that's all everybody's talking about. And every time you lose a game, all they're going to do is come at you from all sides. And so I think our players learned how to handle that, and understanding that pressure is a privilege. You got an opportunity in front of you that's really special. It's a special place to play. It's a special place to be. But if in a down year, being a Florida Gator last year was going to the College World Series, I'll take about 10 more down years before my career is over, because you really just don't understand how hard it is to get to the College World Series year after year. The target's on your back. But for me personally, separate Tim Walton, separate the Gators. The amount of pressure that's on the young people these days and the access that fans and critics and people have to them is so easier. It's so much easier now. But the amount of pressure that the young people and their families are putting on them to perform at a high level is a lot. And so I think, with that being said, couldn't be more proud of the way our players handled the adversity of not having an All-American pitcher, because typically you go to the College World Series with an All-American pitcher. We didn't have that. We had Natalie Lugo, who played a phenomenal role. We had freshman Lexi Delbury, who played a phenomenal role. Elizabeth Hightower played a phenomenal role. Riley Trilicek comes in, plays a phenomenal role. And so, with that being said, I just think that we've been able to really figure out a way to get a little bit more out of our players every single year in the right way, help them grow professionally and personally. And I think that's the coolest part about my job, is when people don't expect something to happen, it happens. And, just like this year, we're preseason ranked, number one, which, I think there probably is 8 teams on paper better than the Gators. But if we're going to be a number one team, if we're going to get to the College World Series, my Kendra Falby, Skylar Wallace, Charlotte Eccles, they better be one of the top 3 players in this league this upcoming year, because this is as good of a league as we've ever had, with the amount of players, the depth, the coaches. Obviously, adding Trisha Ford this year now. This is a special time in softball. I think the trend is forward, and the pedals to the metal. You're going to see great things coming.
I would argue Skylar Wallace is already one of the 3 best players in the league. I mean, let me read this. I couldn't believe when I read this. She was the first player known in Division I history to have at least 70 hits, 70 runs, 50 runs batted in, and 50 stolen bases in a single season.
Second team All-American, Eric. How the heck does that happen? So that either tells you that the game is just unbelievable. There's 16 players better than her in the country, but that it's the best season on the bases I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. It was incredible, and not against bad teams, but against everybody. She was so consistent. One would argue that if she had a little bit better super regional, maybe she's a first team All-American. But at the end of the day, I'm with you. I mean, I haven't seen it before, and probably won't ever see something like that again. But if we get it again, we'll be really good.
Is she better than you thought she would be? Because you obviously have seen her. No, this is what you thought.
Yeah. The one thing I've been able to figure out about Skylar, I've learned how to coach her differently than I thought. I learned how, I've dropped some of the things that some of my I have non-negotiables, things that I will not tolerate from anybody, and I've learned how to change some of my non-negotiables with Skylar. And I've just allowed her to have freedom on the bases. I've allowed her to have freedom in the box. We don't complicate her batting approach. We don't complicate her base running approach. I've worked really hard with her defense to get her to be a much better defender than she was. But I can tell you right now that Skylar Wallace is a tremendous athlete, a tremendous competitor, and she practices harder than I ever thought she would. I didn't know what kind of a practice player I was going to get out of her. She works really hard at her craft, and I commend her for that. She's a lot better practice player than I thought she would be.
You mentioned Falby. She had a great freshman year, 85 hits, the most for a freshman in the SEC since 2013, when Kelsey Stewart, someone you know very well, and the aforementioned McClenny. Stewart had 90 hits that year, McClenny 86. That's good company for Falby to be mentioned in there. And watching her in person, the thing that impressed me, she's super fast. Is she the fastest player you've ever had in your program? And number 2, her defense. She has a great arm in the outfield and great range. Just speak of her as her overall talent.
Yeah. So Kelsey Stewart, I'd say Kelsey Stewart, Haley McClenny, Skylar Wallace are the same kind of player to me. They can just do so much stuff. Where Skylar Wallace is a tremendous athlete. I think I would put Kendra as like a gazelle. Like, she just glides. She just is smooth. She's not as aggressive as those guys. She's just she's tough, but she's just a little smoother, a little bit more God-given, just her speed. She's the fastest I've had from home to first. I think that Skylar is the fastest I've had from first to second, and Kelsey Stewart's pretty dang close. They play the game the same. Kelsey Stewart, that time when Kelsey stole home on a walk, Skylar Wallace has that stuff to her. But Kendra, so defensively, Kendra had really never been a center fielder on most of her travel teams growing up. And I always wondered why. And I figured it out pretty early when she was here. And what I've been able to really, draw out of her is more confidence. Like she's just drawing in her confidence. And, when I said Skylar was a first team All-American, I mean that. Like I've been around this game a long time. I felt like that was the only thing I had disappointing for me. The second most disappointing thing was that Kendra Falvey wasn't an All-American. I've really felt like just what she had done. If the Florida Gators didn't have either one of those players, there's no shot. Like we've got no shot of being at the College World Series last year. And I think when you start to look at that doesn't mean I take anything away from the other players that are out there that are really, really good. But in a lot of cases, some of those players were really, really good with really, really good other players. And I think that our talent pool last year was a little bit less, and we got more out of our talent pool. And Kendra Falvey was tremendous. Skylar Wallace was tremendous. Charlotte had a great year, but in Charlotte Eccles terms and in the SEC, the mindset of what she was, she didn't have the same year she had the year before, but she had a really good softball year for us. And I think that's what I'm talking about. Like we had some good players, but everybody expects the Florida Gators to have great, great players. And it doesn't always work like that in regards to balancing 12 scholarships and some of the other dynamics. I haven't ran any kids out of our program and to make room for this great grad transfer, or, whatever. I've really just honored what I've honored. And with that being said, some of the kids have been better than we thought they could be. Some of the kids have been exactly what they thought. And then some kids underperformed a little bit, or I undercoached them a little bit. But at the end of the day, no excuses made. I thought I am really proud of what Kendra is really working to be. And, again, most people talk about sophomore slumps because kids get really comfortable. And she might have had that early when we started back. And I think she's really embraced her role. And I told her at the end of the year, listen, let's not have any regrets about the end of the year. Let's figure out how we do better in the beginning, in the middle, and your work ethic is key to your success.
I'm sure you're going to get asked about this by the local media and everything about replacing Hannah Adams. And I'm not going to ask you that because I know better. You don't replace Hannah Adams. Those are special people. But as you've talked in the past, that creates opportunity for somebody else now to step in. So talk about that role, because obviously defense has been a big part of your success. You've been now really since forever now. It seems like one of the best defensive teams in the country. And Hannah was a big part of that, as well as her leadership. So what do you see from that position and the impact, trying to take over for a legend like Hannah Adams?
Yeah, I'm not somebody who reads my headlines or my stats or my bio or, Wikipedia page or whatever else is out there. I mean, I know what I have to get better at. I know what I'm fairly good at. I know all the things. But if I could put a little blurb about Hannah Adams and what Hannah Adams has meant to this program, number one, she graduated with her degree. And I know that sounds like, oh, well, that's what she's going to school for. Not everybody goes to school to get their degree. Hannah Adams is a great friend to so many kids on our team and our program for over 5 years. She worked hard in school, earned her degree. She worked hard on the softball field. She was very consistent. She battled a lot of injuries that nobody ever knew about, that she just battled through them and, went out and played softball. She's been so far the hardest player to replace in my entire history of coaching. Because I had a shortstop at second base. She played the game. I mean, I don't even know. I know this when I was rambling about, knowing statistics. In the last 10 seasons, we've had a team ranked in the top 5 NCAA statistically for defensive fielding percentage. And a lot of times one, and a lot of times in the top 3. And 5 of those years we had Hannah Adams and we had Sophia Reynoso, but Hannah is one of the biggest reasons why. She did not make errors. She did not make mistakes. She took hits away. And then the other part of it is her freshman year, she would have been playing shortstop and probably moved Sophia to second because that could have been a more natural position with Sophia's arm and her athleticism and her ability to just maneuver her body so well. But Hannah didn't have the verbal leadership skills that Sophia had. So Hannah said, I'll play second. and she never batted an eye. And she'd never played second base in her entire career as a travel kid. I think there was one time, and she wasn't very good at it. She was a second shortstop. So long story short, Eric, she's so hard to replace in so many ways that I didn't even know existed. I look out to second base. When Sophia graduated, I was like, oh, this is going to be miserable. And Hannah took right over for that. I look out to second base and I'm like, hey, do you guys see me? I'm over here, because Hannah's been looking at me for so many years, just kind of figuring out the plays, the coverages, some certain things that, that we just made eye contact with. I miss her a ton. I miss her actually every single day. And Skylar's taken over for that. Like, Skylar's got the want that Hannah had. And but I tell you what, I miss her every single day.
I'll never forget the game at UCF last year in Orlando. She won the game with that perfect relay throw to throw out Janisha Rowe at third base. It's one of the best relays I've ever seen in person in that bottom of the sixth. Won you the game. I mean, and that doesn't show up in the box score, but that's real. I think that's a play that would describe Hannah Adams in a nutshell.
Well, how many people in the country have the best arm on the field at second base?
Yeah.
Nobody. And so
Right?
she's 76 miles an hour overhand with a beautiful throw and accuracy. And no, you're right. It's underappreciated, and you certainly appreciate it when it's gone. That's for sure. And I like I said, I miss her every day.
You got 4 new faces on the team. Talk about the 4 new faces and what they bring to your team.
Yeah, Olivia Gigante's had a good fall for us. She's worked really hard, pitching, playing first, and hitting. You'll see I did a thing with our players, and I think majority of our players have not voted, but I have them ride a lineup because we've got some pretty good players. And how do you get 20 names into to 10 bodies on game day? And so most of the players on the team have also seen what I've seen, and that she's been a very consistent hitter for us. Kayla Pollard, middle infielder. You'll see that. Right now she's a freshman. She's just like every other freshman we've had. Unfortunately, it's the first time she's ever been a freshman, but she's been a freshman. For me, I've seen it a million times. The game's pretty fast. She expects to get a hit every time. She's been disappointed a lot. She's learning how to handle it. She's been getting better. January's been her best month so far for us. So I would expect her to continue to keep getting better and better. Sam Bender, pitcher. She's in her 6th year. Veteran kid, hasn't had a ton of innings. But it's going to hopefully play a role for us in a lot of games, and maybe a Katie Chronister or Riley Trilachek type role. And then you take Pal Egan, Southland Conference Player of the Year last year. This is cool, and I can share this. So I talked to you about our sharing moment, and all other lineups and how people, what people see, because you don't know what everybody sees. Everybody sees something different. She didn't write herself into the starting lineup in a game today, and I thought that was interesting. She's probably in our top 12 right now, but and when I say top 12, there's some positional things and some other stuff. So she could easily be in our top 8. But as an outfielder, there's some other kids that have outperformed her from the time she's been on campus to now. She is actually the same. She's almost like a freshman, but she's in her 5th year. She's getting better and better and better and better and better. School is going to be tough. She's in her master's program. It's a tough master's degree. But for us, I've been very pleased. She's exactly what I needed us to have this year in our program. We're going to hopefully get some more out of her on the field, get some home runs, get some other things. But those are our big 4. Sam Rose, like a freshman, but the only difference now is she's actually been through it. And she's had a really, really good fall for us. It's one of those things that brought her in early, and I thought she did great for us last year. But now, with that being said, she's really had a good fall.
Speak to your pitching staff. Hightower is back. You got some pitchers back. You do lose Lugo, but I saw some growth, I thought, from your pitching staff. We talked about that Virginia Tech Super Regional. You outpitched one of the best pitching staffs in the country to get to Oklahoma City. You don't get there without some big time pitching. How do they look this fall? This fall going into this season?
Now, the only thing that you said it. We lose Lugo. Lugo had a huge role to. I don't know what the percentages were last year on Virginia Tech on changeups, but we must have thrown 450 changeups as soon as Natalie came into the game to try to offset their power swings and try to offset their aggressiveness, because they were really good, and they're calling the pitches in the dugout. So you're really trying to really play that chess match, and they were. You're exactly right. Virginia Tech was one of the best offenses I've seen in a long time. They were aggressive. They got after it. And so we really had to try to change things up. Lexi Delbury hasn't thrown an inning since the College World Series for us since last year. She's been battling some injuries. Some things kind of popped their head up weird in August, which is an odd time for a procedure to happen. But we had it. We're getting closer. I think the pitch count's getting higher. She's throwing long toss across the field. She's taking ground balls in the circle. She's throwing to first base probably today or Monday. So we're close. We're close on her. Again, does that mean she's ready to go February 10th? Probably. Does that mean I'll pitch her heavy February 10th? Probably not. We'll try to do a really good job of bringing her along smartly. Elizabeth's back. I know what I'm going to get out of Elizabeth. Do we need her to be really good like she was her sophomore year for us to be really good? Yes. Last year her changeup really helped her a lot. Her sophomore year was her rise ball. So if we can get a change and a rise this year, we'll have another All-American pitcher. Riley Trilachek's been our most consistent one though so far. She's been good. She's been very similar to last year. I thought she started to grow in her confidence, created a role very similar to Katie Chronisher's the year before. She came in and left-handed, ground ball. She's getting better against the left-handers. She's getting better against the right-handers. She's in the circle, fielding better. But I think more importantly, she looks like she's growing. She's getting taller. She's getting stronger. She's getting more confident. She's getting better.
This is the 15-year anniversary of your '08 team that made the first trip to the World Series. It really is a historic team, kind of paved the way for future Gator teams like their 2 national championship teams. That doesn't happen without '08. And Francesca Nail, who's obviously was part of that team, told me that when they made that run, they felt more confident the following year because they had gone through it. And there was that growth, that point of, oh, we think we can do it to we expect to do it. Do you see similarities from the returners from this year having gone to OKC? It's one thing to have the expectation, but there were some of these players that haven't been there. Now they have. Do you see that confidence that comes with that in the fall here coming in that could make a difference this year?
Well, I said this to ESPN when I was at the College World Series for the pre-tournament interviews, that when we went to Blacksburg, we went to Blacksburg with 3 All-Americans, well, really 4, and we got, obviously the biggest turning point in our season was getting Hannah Adams back from injury last year. But we went to Blacksburg with Hannah Adams, All-American. Went to Blacksburg with Charlotte Eccles, All-American. Went to Blacksburg with Elizabeth Hightower, All-American. So we go to there with 3 All-Americans. Obviously, Kendra and Skylar had really good years. But by the time it got to the College World Series, I felt like Katie Kistler was an All-American. I felt like Avery Gels was an All-American. I felt like Natalie Lugo was an All-American. So I'd say with Kistler now this year, more confident, professional. Avery Gels, more confident. She's not just trying to get a hit every time. Now she actually understands what dealing with some certain things. She played a huge role for us last year postseason wise. She's had a really good fall. And again, it's the confidence, it's the growth, it's the maturity, the game's slowing down. The expectations are the same, but you're able to handle them a little bit differently. So I do agree with that. We're going to go only as far as our pitching, just like every other team probably in this country. But with that being said, I like our athletes. I like our confidence. I like the character development stuff that we've done this fall. I like the process that we go about every day with. But Emily Wilkie's grown. Samantha Rowe's grown. Bailey Goddard's grown. She's going to be back this year for us. Kendra Falby will be better. But I do think that really helped pave the way. It's kind of like a barrier. It's break down the barrier. The '08 team obviously has the NCAA record for wins in a season with 70. We had to go through a loss to UCF in regional play 2-1 in extra innings. We had 37 game win streak. We had regional. We'd only been to 1 super regional in our history in '07. So I think last year's a very similar story in regards to first times, because I think over half of our players made it to the College World Series for the first time. And some of them went back again. So you're right on the money, Eric. The confidence piece is something that you as a coach, you don't know where you get it from in some cases, and you don't know where it went in other cases. And I think this is just one of those cases.
Yeah, it's 18 to 22-year-olds that you got to go through the experience. You can only coach them so much in practice. They got to go through that experience.
Well, last year was 18 to 27-year-olds. It felt like in college softball, there were so many players that had been around for so many years that were
That's true.
Seriously, this girl's got another year. She's been hitting home runs for, all the records that are being broken. And, last year in college softball, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many records being broken. You look at the average age of those kids breaking those records, some some very talented athletes and grown women just getting after you every single day. That was a tough year last year in the dugout watching so many good hitters, man. It was crazy.
Yeah. My last question to you: what is the question because you always say you always have a question going into the season that you're curious to find out early, and what things like that. What is that key question or two that you think, okay, if we can do this or do that, I'm wondering if we are good at this, we could be, we're off in the running. What's a couple of the keys this year?
I think it's the same thing I said the last two seasons, 21, 22, 23. Pitching. To me, it's pitching. To me, if we can keep the ball in the ballpark, keep the ball in the dirt, give our really good defense a chance and an opportunity to make plays. We spend a lot of time. Like, I had someone say this the other day, and it didn't come from me. It came from them. It's like, hey, we're at Florida. We play defense. You dive when you're supposed to dive. You don't dive when you're not supposed to dive. You make plays. And if you don't make the play, we're certainly not going to make a mistake the second time on the same play. And I was like, holy smokes, that's exactly what I feel like we are, is we just aren't going to beat ourselves very often. And so I think the pitching to me is going to be the key, just like I said last year, just like I said the year before that. Again, just like every great pitcher, it's really hard. You graduated Kelly Barnhill. It's really hard to live up to those expectations. And so we're still feeling that, and it's coming. It's coming. We're coming with some kids that can feature some different pitches. But I think this pitching staff, really proud of them. They work really hard together. But we're going to need them all. They're going to need to pitch. We need Lexi Delbury to get back here healthy soon. But I think for the most part, we're keep the ball in the ballpark, get the ball in the dirt, find a way to be competitive in the circle every single game. And I think we're going to score a lot of runs.
Well, we're excited to see your team on the field, and you mentioned scoring a lot of runs. There's a new scoreboard now I saw the other day. Congrats on that. That's a gorgeous scoreboard, huge scoreboard there.
Beautiful. Actually, again, as you go through the whole dynamics, it's going to change the game in game for all the players, but for the fans. I mean, we got season ticket holders now for so many years, and that's what really happened. And Scott Strickland told me as soon as we had the stadium done, he's like, man, we got to redo the scoreboard. And we had a season ticket holder, a donor, step up and say to Scott, and we reached out to him directly and said, hey, we need a new scoreboard. We need to change the image. I can't see some of the things on there. We need to get what baseball has across the street is quote unquote her words. And Scott knew that. She funded it, made it happen really quickly, and just thankful for really. We want to change the game day experience. We want this to be an awesome experience for everybody, our visitors, our visiting fans, our home team, and obviously our staff and our players and our families. It's Florida's first class, man. I just tell you, they just everything about Jeremy did it right. Scott does it right. Linda Teeler's my boss. What do we need to be successful, and what do we need to do it right? And they do it right for my athletes all the time. I'm really, really blessed and fortunate to be here.
No doubt, and I heard a lot of praise too about how you all hosted the SEC tournament last year. I thought it was well run. In fact, I had talked to Coach Deifel here this week, and she's like, "Yeah, I got a lot of pressure following that how you all hosted, because they're hosting it this year. So that had to be a lot of pride. I know you took a lot of pride that week in how you hosted, and the whole country got to see your stadium and the renovations. And now, come opening night, they're going to see that new scoreboard."
I think when Jeremy Foley hired me 18 years ago, so this is going to be my 18th season upcoming. Jeremy hired me, and he asked me what kind of a manager I am. Are you a micromanager? And I think this is how I would phrase that now. 18 years. I was trying to get the job then, so I was nervous. Now I'd say it the right way. I'm a micromanager until you show me the competency in your job and your ability to do your job, and I'll back off and leave you the heck alone. Our operations crew and staff is unbelievable here at Florida, and they do a phenomenal job. But with that being said, I was involved in every single SEC meeting we had, not to micromanage, but to make sure that the visiting teams, make sure that the ESPN, the visiting staff, they had what they needed to run a first-class event. Because as a coach, we can only complain about, wow, they should have done this, they should have done that. So we really tried to get all the woulda, shoulda, couldas out of the way early and figure out a way. I assigned an individual host from my staff to each one of the visiting teams that came in here. You guys have a need, you need something, just let us know. We might be playing you tonight, but you let us know. We can tell you all the recommendations in town to eat. We wanted to make that thing, similar to what the World Series would feel like for all those teams. And because some of those teams aren't going to obviously get there. And we wanted to make that an awesome experience. And I thought we did. Arkansas obviously won that tournament. Beat us the night before, but for them in Missouri and Tennessee and Mississippi State, us, we had a good run going through that. It was pretty fun games to watch, but first class. ESPN was legit. We had rain delays and they were legit. They handled everything really well. And we opened up. Commissioner Sankey was up here in my office and up here on our balcony. And it starts right there with that man. That guy is an unbelievable leader. And we hopefully we're all just a byproduct of what his vision is, and I think we are.
No question. Well run, and great congrats to everybody involved, and congrats on the great 2022, Coach, and look forward to seeing you here in 2023, start the season in Tampa, and then the home opener after that, and another great season of Gators softball ahead. Thank you so much for taking the time under with the busy schedule. You've always been kind to us, and always appreciate talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Eric. Appreciate you too. Go Gators.